So far, we've been building this network in this sort of stack on the table here. And honestly, a lot of networks back in the back room look just like this. Some of them even not this clean because I've used nice color coding here and it's pretty easy to see for us here with the labels and such. But the way most reasonable data centers are built, they're built around these data racks. They're called 19-inch racks. You know why? It's because they're 19 inches wide, that's why. And so we have this 19-inch rack, and if the rack has doors on it, it might be called a cabinet. Okay, so it's a cabinet with doors. But let's strip off the doors and let's load this rack up for a minute. Let's see how we actually rack and stack a network just like this one. You start off with your endpoint switches. So there's two 48-port, 100 megabit per second data switches. That's where all of your endpoints are going to plug in right there. Then right above it, we put our backbone switch. That's a gigabit switch by itself. Fewer ports, right above it, different. Then we have our router. It's maybe that all-in-one router that includes all of our security and our outside connectivity. There's our wireless controller for the wireless network. Here's a 1U server and a 2U server. And so U's stands for units. It's a unit of measurement in height. And you just need to know how many U's you have available and how many you're using so that you can fill the box up appropriately. That's really all. Gives you a way to sort of measure your cabinet vertically. 1U, 2U, even 4U. And so there's a couple of servers. Here's our storage device. Remember our NAS. And all of these devices now plug into one of the appropriate switches above. There's our UPS, uninterruptible power source. And of course, it plugs on one side into the power source, and on the other side, all of these boxes up above plug into it. They all plug into the UPS. And ultimately, the network really looks kind of like that. You have all these wires that go off in the various directions. Now, in the network that I've designed right here, if the power goes out in the building, we have a complete power outage, and the UPS kicks on, the battery keeps all of those devices in that stack up and running. Now, what about the phone on my desk? So the lights go out, I'm in the complete darkness, I pick up my phone to call IT. Does my phone work? Okay, does the phone work? Is it connected to the UPS? Yes, it is. How? PoE, right? Power over Ethernet. And so the phone has power because the switch has power. Very important, very critical to how this network works. And so that's our UPS. Now, a more reasonable stack might look like this, where you put all of your sort of core technologies, those critical servers and critical storage devices in one box together. They have multiple UPSs. They have that big gigabit backbone switch at the top, and we connect them across the top there, maybe with a very fast 10 gigabit SFP kind of connection. And that's the way networks get built. Now, is all network hardware built for racks? And the answer is no. There are some that look like this. And so there's a standalone, what we might call a tower server. Stands upright, right? It's kind of a vertical thing. Now, could you put a tower server in a rack? Yeah. You put a shelf in there and stick it in. Doesn't really fit, but there it is. It'll work. But these things are really meant to sort of sit on a tabletop like we have here. And so you can have tabletop standalone switches and routers. And that's what you see, kind of some of these things, because they don't quite look like they would fit in a 19-inch rack, which is about that wide. Now, these switches look like they're just about right for a 19-inch rack. You can have a standalone UPS device that looks like that, sort of shorter and fatter. It sits on the floor, on a table somewhere, works just like the one that you plug into the rack. So you'll see we have rack versions of these hardware items, and we have standalone versions. Now, what if I wanted to put one of these devices into a rack? Any of these devices. What does it take? It takes a rack kit, right? A set of brackets. And without these brackets, these devices won't fit into the rack. And do the rack kit come with the device? No, it does not. You have to sell these things separately. And so the question might be, are we going to mount this switch in a rack, 19-inch rack? Yes. Okay, then. Then you're going to need the rack kit that comes along with it. Items sold separately. What should I know? Here we are at the end. I'm not going to read all this for you because by now these are just reminders. And these are little short elevator speech kind of answers to what does a network switch do on a network router. You'll see these things. I won't say them all again. I've said them way too many times. So we'll see from this little little grouping here, network switch and router, we'll see layer 3 switch, what it's for. We'll see VLANs and 2 on wireless networks, the basics of wireless networks, and then those wireless implementation rules. Here we'll see power over Ethernet, some of those PoE questions. Ethernet, we'll see storage, carrier services, VPN and firewall, those are both security related. And we see SIP and SIP trunks. We see SBCs and QoS, lots of acronyms, hope you've learned them. We'll see all-in-one devices and 19-inch racks with UPS. This is our reminder. You can always go back to these little cards here and be reminded of just exactly what it is that we've learned over these 3 or 4 hours together. In the material that you've downloaded or you have a hard copy of in your hand, then you've got some material in the back of the book, and you're going to see a whole list of network vendors. It's kind of a who makes what perspective. So you'll see the vendor, you'll see the network hardware that they provide. They may sell other things, and I've just listed as other things. So you'll see all the network vendors that we have here, and you'll be able to see sort of who makes what. You'll be able to see back there a comparison of the actual OSI stack and the TCP/IP stack, if that really matters to you, but just know that one's based on the other. They're highly related. You'll see transmission schemes, Wi-Fi protocols. If someone, there's a sort of a topic going around these days called SDN, software-defined networks. It's crazy complicated. If someone asks you about it, you can go back and say, hey, in the back of the book, got a nice little short blurb back there, very simple, that talks about software-defined networks and something called shortest path bridging. I want to say thank you very much. I know that this has been a big commitment of several hours. And what I hope is that the network knowledge that we've gained over these past few hours together will help you tremendously and help you with a lot of confidence in selling network equipment in the channel, to be able to learn more from network vendors and ultimately have a much better and much more profitable IT channel relationship. So thanks very much. We appreciate your time and efforts.